Good morning and Namaste, my friends, and welcome to Namaste Today in the Zodiac weather. My name is Stepº4 Witecki. I am the sensei to Sirius joy, here to stand in my heart and walk in the light. It is a pleasure to light walk with you today, my friend. I'm love casting live in 5 dimensions on this beautiful temple of Gaia on Wednesday, March 25th, 2015. And today I've chosen this rainy setting because I think we may have our first spring shower. That is, step 4 is ruling the day. Now, step 4 will always rule one day every month, and that's the way it is. So in every state of awareness that we tour, we have this breakdown, breakthrough step. The time now, though, is we are touring our ego. And our ego is pretty much designed to deny and ignore and to fight to the bitter end, especially if we're in fight or flight and if we are still trying to survive in life. So if we have a trained ego that's supposed to bark at the milkman, and you tell it to stop barking now because milkmen are good, or we've decided milk is bad for us, you know what I mean? Your ego still may be firing off. And so this is about discovering where the old ego is firing off, and that can be sometimes a humbling experience. Now, maybe it's already happened. Step 4 actually started last night, to be honest with you, and continues through the day. And what it is, I believe, is the old ego starting to fall. So it's springs and spring showers with breakdown, with breakthrough just around the corner. So just hang tight and just watch the cities burn, as I always say, if that's the case, all right? But before we dive into those tactics, let's first tame our brain with the phrase of the day. Today I honor my losses, and I am grateful to renew. I honor my losses, and I am grateful to renew. Now, as a person who was born with a step 1 Mars, that is like the youngest kid in the room when it comes to ego, I have gone through every painful step in my progression and humbly, probably eaten crow at every step. And one thing I have learned is that when I am putting down one of my egos, which is, we do, and this is part of it, when I'm redefining myself, I think it's really good to honor the losses and also honor what that ego went through. The ego is looking for honor, by the way, and it's hard to put down a failure or a loss or something that's not working for us anymore because the ego just wants to do good and survive and be strong all the time. And I look at the ego as the dumbass or our little doggy, all right? So it's a little dog that fetches for us. It's a little dog that barks at the milkman. So the doggy needs a little reward for barking at the milkman, even though there's no such thing as a milkman anymore. Right? And I find a lot of people, will end up trying to get these types of approvals from others when they're not aware of where, their ego is immature. So we're in Aries, that's ego. And whatever you lose, awesome. Honor it. Give it the best funeral you possibly can in the greatest way and put her to bed. All right? And at that time, if you're having a hard time wondering where to go, then the other hemisphere of our brain is, I'm grateful to renew. I'm grateful for the spring shower. I am grateful for something new and fresh, right, every year. So I honor my losses today, and I am grateful to renew. And so it is, because I said so, I thought so. The serious step of the day is step 4. That's Aquarius. That's I belong energy. That's Uranus. And so in I belong energy, basically, you're saying, all right, I give it up to God, or I'm giving it up to my heart and where I belong, according to law of attraction and our heart's desire. So it's our ego that fights for the heart, but often gets in the way of the heart, right? And in essence, we're trying to get our ego in line with our heart. That's what we're going to do in the next 30 days. That's what we're trying to do in the human evolution. That's the problem right now with war. Make love, not war, right? Like, we are the people who make war instead of love are letting the ego run, right? The whole show. So today, it's an I belong time. Now, you may be at any point, already at the step 14 or the step 24 in something in your story. Step 14 is when you're up against a huge hurdle and you've got to now go over it. And you're like, am I sure I want to do this? Like, that's step 14. Step 24 is like, okay, if we don't perform now, it's all going down. So it's one of those one more heave-hoes. Every time it's a 4, it's a breakdown heave-ho, all right? And maybe you've already prepared for this. I'm not saying it has to be a shock, but if there is ever a shock in the Zodiac, it's step 4. Let's look at the chakras and how they're shocking us.
Re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Well, Aries says, I am me, me, me. Let's talk about me, right? And that is Aries. And we all want to talk about us. And this is the time to talk about us. This is a time where we are aggressive, where we tend to run, not walk. And so you have to ground yourself a little extra than normal. Then today, with I belong consciousness, 4, this means that our crown is technically leading things at this point, right? And we already decided when we were in Aquarius where we believe we belong. So this may be our ego just catching up to the story. You know, like, hey, we made this decision 6, 8, 10 weeks ago. You know, why are we resisting right now? Because the ego is trained to bark at the milkman. That's why. And it doesn't know what the heck you're doing. So this is the animal part of us that needs to be retrained. All right? So honor the red and the purple, right? We are the highest and lowest, and we're bridging the two today. So let's look at the timing of things in our cosmic clock. Alrighty, looking at the cosmic clock, the sun is at step 4 or 4 degrees of Aries, all right? And we are on our way to Uranus. We're going to have a bit of a jump in this particular Aries. There's a lot of reasons that we're making this change. Most of it is Uranus. I'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. Mercury, our mind, has jumped to step 20. That's when our mind is thinking about the emotion, thinking about the passion. And so our mind is on the passion. And remember, once it gets passionate, your mind really can just do kind of reply in short bursts. You know what I mean? Like people do when they're in passion, right? There's not whole sentences coming out. Don't expect whole sentences. It's really about just, you know, keeping up with yourself. Now, some of the emotion that might be happening is due to the moon in high degrees of Gemini, okay, heading for Cancer, but it is squaring a Mercury. What that means is that our emotions and our thoughts are co-triggering each other, and we're squeezing fear out between the two. So we may be afraid of thinking something, right? Or we may be thinking something that's bringing up emotion. In essence, our thoughts and our emotions are looking to be friends right now, and they're looking to work out the kinks. So one of them has got to get on board the program. Usually it's the mind that needs to get on board the program. Remember? So today, as we're at step 20 and the moon is in Gemini, you know, our mind really does need to be there to support the emotions like a baby, not there to argue with our emotions. I found arguing with yourself does no good. Now, we've got this amazing temporary yod. Yod is God giving us the finger, but where to? To Pluto. Pluto is death, death of step 15. In fact, Pluto is squaring Uranus right now at step 15. Step 15 is the peace builder. And so what this is today for me is, in a way, this is where you give yourself permission to break your normal rules. You give yourself permission to rebirth. Now, if you didn't give yourself permission, God opened up the portal anyways. Don't worry. It'll turn out that it worked out because it's a Pluto-sponsored moment. And it is partly due to the moon down there in Gemini. And on the other side, Jupiter stirring in our hearts in Leo. So our heart and emotion, well, something's going to have to change. And that is exactly God's point. Something is going to have to change. Now, on top of that, we've got this Vavum Grand Trine in fire, a soul pyramid of fire. And here I have the steps overlaid. The sun today is at step 4, so it is exactly trining Saturn at step 4. Saturn at step 4 retrograde right now. And that is calling for us to, you know, I would think that if it hasn't already happened, you've thrown in the towel about believing a certain thing. You've opened yourself up to some sort of, well, we'll see. We'll see. And the zodiac weather, I'll show you, I think, where you are in your sign, and you're going, we'll see. All right? That's part of the trine. But what a trine does is it kind of hardwires our consciousness so all three parts can get it at the same time. And when that happens, we have a holy moment, right? So we're going to be hardwired for this holy moment for a few days. And Saturn at step 4 is probably one of the slippery spots, if you will. Then another slippery spot is Jupiter. And Jupiter is at its home, step 12. Step 12 is a 3. Jupiter rules 3. 3 times 4 is 12. So really 12 is 4 threes, right? So that's a mega, like, pure vibration of what Jupiter does. What is it saying? It's saying, hey, my heart is ready to live by what it feels is right. That's what step 12 is, going with your feelings. Step 12 is also the bridge. It's the bridge step where you have to cross the unknown. And so to some degree, when it comes to our philosophies around our heart, we're probably subscribing to something that is unknown. We're probably looking back at an old topic and we're saying, this old thing again, but we're looking at it hopefully from our true feelings. The 2 is what saves you there, and 2 2s makes a 4. This numerology all adds up. So, whoops, that is the wrong slide. Here we go. So the sun today is at step 4. Step 4 is I belong. So we're trying to figure out where we belong. And the truth is the I belong consciousness began last night and has gone through through today. And I find that each person is kind of timed to either the beginning, the middle, or the end of a transit, as I talk to viewers over and over again. But what happens right after you realize you're in the wrong place is step 5. You suddenly realize where you should be. Okay? So the breakdown is almost always followed by an immediate breakthrough, like, oh, wonk, 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 wonk. You know what I mean? And at that moment, you understand. Now, where is Mars the king? Well, Mars, the king of Aries, the ruler of Aries, the big crystal swinging around the sun that represents ego, it's actually talking to God today. It's at step 25. So the good thing is that our kind of idiosyncrasies are, I think wherever Mars is kind of where where our actions will end up leading and how our actions come together that day. So today our actions are coming from our feelings and our mind coming together. Now, if our feelings and mind have come together, like I've been prescribing, in a natural way, working together, then you open up to, truly what's best for your spirit. That's the 7. But if your mind and your feelings are not friends, I don't think that portal opens, my friend, and I think you feel kind of lost out there. So you want to, really be attuned to you, no matter what you have to do out there in the world today, is my advice. So let's add this all up, shall we, with today's Joy Quest. Today's Joy Quest, should you choose to accept it, is say goodbye to fight or flight. That's my theory today. I think with Uranus at step 15, halfway up, and scoring Pluto, ready to break the rules, ready to break free of maybe ancient kind of vibration. Many of us who walk in light and have been since the Mayan ascension and further, we are becoming karma-free. And karma-free, in my opinion, is that our ego and our spirit-ego combination is no longer responding to fight or flight. That, to me, is like level 1 of ascending past your ego, to where, you aren't immediately trying to run away from the situation or fight the situation. And so that is where you sit in observation. That's the way you kind of get past that moment. But I think, today, as if things break down, the biggest thing is I don't think we're in fight or flight anymore. And I don't think you have to focus on this. I'm saying I think the human race is starting to ascend out of fight or flight. I'm finding that I have and I am. You will find that you have and are, that you are capable of. And this is really, what to keep your eye, keeping your eye on the ball. Look at this. Look at this. We're ascending past fight or flight. That's a very, very important thing. And we should tell us to the dumbass, good job, dumbass. Like, good job for not peeing all over the crowd or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So say goodbye to fight or flight, and just sit there and observe. That is a big step today. And then whatever action you do take or whatever you find didn't work, at least we're not fight or flighting. At least we're not, overreacting. At least we're not knee-jerking, creating a problem that creates a problem that creates a problem that creates a problem. That is the ascension, in my opinion, of our karma, and that's a very good thing. So for those watched over my personal Sensei network at 9:09 a.m., I will talk about your heart's journey today and what you'll be leaping over. At 11:11 a.m., I'll talk about what side of the fence are you stuck on. So looking at your natal Uranus step in your chart, I can kind of figure out what step you're stuck on. Uranus is always a step we're stuck on. So I'll talk about what step you're stuck on. And then at 3:03, I'll talk about, hey, what does it take to get over that fence? Because I can't put it all in one message, and it's good to kind of separate the things of the day. Incidentally, if you would like to sign up for the service, I do it once a month to sign up, and the next one is April 1st. Come on down to SiriusJoy.me. It's just $19.95, and I'm with you all day long. It's a lot of fun. So that brings us to today's telepathy. I'm loving this new kind of approach to it. I'm picturing an Aries icon and hero. an Aries icon and hero. And this is interesting. These are all Aries icons and heroes, and I think this is the full range. Number 1, am I thinking of Cesar Chavez? Number 2, am I thinking of Colin Powell, an Aries? Number 3, am I thinking of Segal, an icon for the Aries? So I'll have that answer. I'm sending to you the image right now, and I'll be right back after this. Hey there! Guess what's coming up? Sirius Joy Camp. Now tell me you got your tickets. We're just a couple days away. Come on down to soulmart.me. Welcome back to Namaste Today. And for today's telepathy answer, I asked you, I was thinking of an Aries icon hero, and I was sending you one of the 3. Was it number 1, Cesar Chavez, number 2, Colin Powell, or number 3, Segal? The answer was Cesar Chavez. Yeah, that might have been an easy guess just because I think his work was remarkable, organizing farm workers in the United States, and I live in California where I think he's honored a bit more. And I think when you remember heroes like this, but Aries hero, right? Helping the underdog. So beautiful and cool. Let's now move on to our rock and roll gospel. We're looking at the rock and roll of some Aries superstars, and considering we may be going through a breakdown and a breakthrough, I thought it was important to bring in some serious, strong female Aries energy. And I brought in Lady Gaga, which to me, she's an amazingly strong, cool Aries woman, right? And she's a step 7 Aries, so she's doing God's work, right? In fact, a step 7 Aries is probably the best Aries who can remain humble, who can accept their losses, who can go on when things are tough. Honestly, a step 7 Aries would be probably that. Or a step 25, anyone that adds up to that 7, bringing in that, God consciousness in and along with that strong Aries character. So the song of the day is The Edge of Glory. I think it's pretty strong. Something out there, a new anthem for ladies, for Aries, for everyone out there. But before you find yourself on the edge of your glory, let's take a look at the moods of each of your brothers and sisters today, and a little assistance so when people are running red lights, you can kind of understand what they might be going through. And I'm going to give you some revelation as to where God's yod is pointing out with Pluto. Remember that? Where God's yod is pointing out with Pluto? Let's talk about what that means and where that gives you liberty, starting with the Scorpio, step 0. Showers, chance of storms, I think, for the Scorpions. That's because the moon in Gemini is in a real sensitive spot for you. But God's yod says you belong thinking happy thoughts. And that may sound simple, but that's what it's saying. Hey, I don't know what's going on in your life, but it comes down to this. It is time to think happy. Step 1, the Leos, cloudy, chance of moodiness as well. God's yod says you belong making your own work rules. So you belong working by your own rules during the day. Step 2, the Cancers, cloudy, chance of showers as well, somewhere in this 24-hour period. God's yod says to the Cancers, you belong in great relationships. Great ones, not just relationships. Step 3, the Sagittarius says, cloudy, chance of love issues. Speaking of relationships, God's yod says you belong setting the prices now, not following prices. Setting them, my friends. Step 4, the Aquarius says, storms, chance of anger for y'all. God's yod says you belong fear-free. So do not be reacting to fear, I think that yod says. Step 5, the Gemini is cloudy but cool, even though it's raining for most. That's because you're empowered by that cool moon. But God's yod says to you, you belong being close to others. Close, not separating, all right? I know. And sometimes you think you're close. You think. That's what you always do, is think. Step 6, the Librans. Cloudy chance of moodiness today as well. God's yod says you belong feeling good. So what's keeping you from feeling good? Step 7, the Pisces. Sunny and very pensive today. But God's yod says you belong somewhere else. I think that's how you put it. Somewhere else, a different fishbowl. This ain't swimming. Step 8, the Capricorns, cloudy, a little anxious today. God's yod says you are acting from the heart. Okay, it's time to act from the heart, not for the money. All right, so act from the heart, not from the money. That's the way it's time to act, and I think that's what the yod is pointing to, because it's pointing to you in Capricorn. Then the Aries, cloudy and argumentative today. No kidding. Happy birthday, by the way. But in God's yard, you belong deciding differently. So you belong deciding differently in general. Just making different decisions, different things go into those decisions, and different reasons why they're in decisions. Different decision making, which leads to a different career, but keep it at the decision policy first is my advice. And the Torah says, cloudy chance of pissiness. Yeah. God's yard says, you belong believing in what works. So, you know, not what has worked. What works now. That's where I get lost, because I want to be like, oh, it's manifested, I'm done, moving on. It's like, no, sometimes we have to rebuild that. Oh! Step 11 is the Virgo's cloudy and professional today. But God's yard says, you belong in serious joy. Seriously. So if you're in anything loveless or not fun, yada, 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 you know how it goes. Seriously. So moving on to our Lightwalker parade. Hey, first of all, if you're on YouTube, please be kind and do subscribe. We thank you ahead of time. It helps us with our YouTube relationship. On Facebook, you can be our friend by going to soulgarden.me, and you can join our cool email list by going to soulmart.me. And Sirius Joy Camp is coming up. I'm so excited. Come to soulmart.me if you'd like to know more about it. I'm sending out a cool video now to the people who have signed up for the camp. So if you've signed up for the camp, you'll be expecting an email now from me. If you haven't already, it will give you some insights onto what we're going to learn. Don't forget, if you sign up for April's Sirius Joy, which is $19.95, I'll give you that back towards the camp. All that is, of course, at soulmart.me. I gratefully thank you ahead of time. And thank you so much for telling us to your friends and family. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the love. And thank you for being you. Seriously. I'll see you in 24 hours. Remember, I love you. And live, love, be.
This is just so ironic.